During your Kundalini awakening rising, you will know where you are, because during the whole course of it, you will gravitate towards different colors, different textures, different experiences, different people, different deities, different energy. Every time you get to a certain point on the continuum of your consciousness, and depending on what part of the physical body the Kundalini is working on or passing through or sitting at, you will gravitate towards a particular deity that will be associated with that point. If it's not a deity, it will be a vibration, it will be a color, it will also be a smell. Sometimes you will want to gravitate towards a Kali energy, sometimes it will be Shiva, sometimes it will be Jesus. It could be so many different things. Now, depending on what you've been exposed to physically, what has provided you with your language, what has provided you with the way that the mind cognizes what has been perceived by our senses, that language will come from what we've been exposed to and what we've been experiencing. So if you were in a particular family or a particular part of society, or exposed to some school or education, whatever impacted you or influenced you will determine what active language you have of decoding or coding the experiences that you have, which will then give you the language in terms of how you're going to translate an ethereal, supernatural, extraordinary, extraterrestrial experience. Yeah, so an out of body, how are you going to translate that? How are you, your mind, going to put that into thoughts, words, so that it's tangible? So that rather than it just being a knowing or a perceiving, is that you're then processing that, and you'll process that depending on the bank of memory that we've got inside. So if you're someone who has been exposed to the Sikh faith, the Hindu faith, the Christian faith, or not even religions, maybe it's got nothing to do with that, but you have been exposed to the elementals, you've been exposed to a different way of connecting to all that is, depending on that, your Kundalini is going to translate. So your Kundalini experience of that is going to be translated by that. So that is the program that is sitting inside of us. That program will dictate how we perceive those experiences. Now, a lot of us, when we have similar decoding of this Kundalini experience in us, we will group together. And when it's not similar, we then almost want to invalidate the experience of somebody else because they are using a different program to us. But it's still the same. Yeah? Now, when you can't see the differences anymore, that'll tell you again where you've come to in your whole experience of the Kundalini, which is an amplifying potential of creative essence in us, which will be backed by a spiritual awakening, which will give it the vehicle, the container, the consciousness, which is the driver of it. Yeah, the consciousness is the driver of it. Now, when we can then translate that experience, we will sometimes want to wear a certain material, not wear a certain material. Some of us will completely go off makeup. We won't want to touch our hair. Some of us might shave our hair off, like I did a few times, and go to remote places, pilgrimages. There'll be so many different things that you are going through and accessing at different points. And when it comes to pilgrimages or going to connect with different vortexes, you're actually going to pick things up. You're picking things and you're piecing things together inside of you. This is all going towards that eventual rising, that eventual integration, that eventual realization. The different fragrances, the different colors, the different preferences will keep changing. Now, this keep changing can happen over a whole lifetime or many lifetimes. It can happen over years, over months. There is no actual time to this. It will all depend on how we are integrating this and how we are able to translate it into our human experience, into our worldly experience, how we're going to go with this. Now, at some point, some of us will become altruistic. Some of us will want to go towards the Guru Gadi, will want to go towards becoming spiritual teachers, guides, empaths, healers, and some of us will want to work within the community in different ways. But what will come out of this, as a result, wherever you are, eventually when you go past the difference, when you go past the duality, when you go past the other being other than you, when all of that comes to a close and you get to a point, let's say oneness, just for the ease of reference, that is when you can be wherever, stationed anywhere, even without you willing it, or just your presence in itself will create ripples, will create healing. And this also, as you know, because you've also gone through a spiritual awakening, will mean a deconstruction and a crumbling of structures of those that have bathed in your aura, in your sancto sanctorum. So in a way, you are the sancto sanctorum. You are this, place, this shrine. So just as we would go to a shrine, if you do go to a shrine, or if you go anywhere and you pay obeisance, you then become the holder of that which we would pay obeisance to, because you've realized it inside of you. So it goes everywhere. It is not that you're then going to dress a particular way. I mean, some people can dress in particular ways, or they can, because now that is where they are. Again, depending on where the Kundalini is, and it'll match with where you are in terms of your planets at birth, what you've come to do, what your numbers are telling you. You add all of this together, which brings you to your blueprint that in this life, this is what is going to be your program. Now, your program might be different to another person's program, but it won't be the factor that determines the difference in how evolved either one of us are in our awakening. It will just be a different way of decoding, encoding, and programming. So it'll just be a different way. So it's not that someone is way ahead or far ahead, or somebody is way below. There is none of that in a Kundalini awakening rising. It is simply an evolution. So the way we were evolving outward when we're experiencing our physical self, this time we evolve inward. So you're literally gathering all that you have thrown out, you're gathering it back in, you are settling the scores. When you settle the scores and you realize that you weren't the score after all, you then come to a place where you experience a lightness in your being. You experience wisdom. So at every point on the continuum of a Kundalini process, you will experience different sensations, different colors, different food, different diet, relationships, people. And you might find that you will go back in yourself and understand what someone you couldn't stand 10 years ago said that made sense to you now. We will, all in all, your spiritual Kundalini experiences are very, very liberating. As long as we're going with them, we're not going against the flow. And if we are for a while, it's okay, because we are working off of an old programming, and we do that automatically because we don't realize that we are working off of an old story that is not us, was never us. And when you come to a storyless state of you, which is a bare canvas, there's nothing written in the book, you can then take and become the scribe. And you've always been the scribe, but this time you're doing it more consciously. And this is where your whole manifestation comes in. This is where then you become co-creators and you're able to create. Or rather, you're able to project out into a field of possibility who you are at all times, and you know it and you're aware of it, which means you can keep evolving what you identify with, therefore influencing that which you project out into the energy field and then experience in the physical field. You can do it consciously or unconsciously, but what you'll realize is when you've integrated your state of Kundalini experiences, you've integrated your spiritual awakening, then you are already living in that fertile void. You're already living in that. So you don't have to make an effort. You don't have to consciously try to do something, because you're always in that flow. And even the ebb is still a flow of this, folks. Sending you so much love. Do drop me a comment if there's any particular questions that you would like addressed in relation to spiritual awakening, Kundalini awakening, rising.